Oh, no, that broke the camera. Let me, Oh, that's because of this. All right. There we
Oh,
go.
yeah.
There we go. All right, now we're good. We're starting in 5, 4, 3.
Like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for February 3rd, 2025 for the next hour or so. Let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game S Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Civilization 7 reviews are in, and it's divisive. And when is Sony going to start talking about games again? But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game S Mornings. It's Emma Fyffe, everybody. Emma, how are you doing?
I'm just great.
Sure.
Yeah, living day to day. I have to tell you, I watched Cybermania 94.
Hey, that's a fun one.
The other day. And it was great. Honestly, if I were producing the Game Awards, I would study that very hard.
In a lab, yeah.
And because there's like a lot of things that they did right. It's this weird combination of not taking it seriously enough and taking it too it's super interesting.
That's the one that also like Jeff Keighley was a consultant on, right?
He was, yeah. But anyway, like it's so weird because the hosting duo is Leslie Nielsen and Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Right. Yeah,
like,
man.
Those
are the rules in '94. You can't have a show and not have them host it.
It was like really amazing. I literally like texted Jan when I was watching it. And I was like, wait, this is kind of awesome.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, I would. We've watched a couple of shows like that, me and Mike on our Game S channel, and I always wanted to get around to old Cybermania '94.
Recommend.
Yes, there's some really good. There's some ones that are like really tough to watch, not even like Keighley related. There are some like the other award shows, even from the last several years, that are really rough. But those are a good watch too. So, yeah. So Cybermania is coming back. You think we're gonna get a Cybermania 2025 this year?
I think I think it's time we bring it back. Honestly.
I think we should just do it. We should just call something Cybermania.
Yeah, we'll do something on Drive On. We'll just call it Cybermania 25.
Is Leslie Nielsen dead? I think Leslie Nielsen might be dead. Is he dead?
I think so.
All right, well, we'll get another.
But we could get JTT. What's he up to?
We can get JTT. When I was young, everyone and that show was very popular. Everyone told my brother he looked like Jonathan Taylor Thomas for years.
Whoa.
So we could just get him. And have him do it.
Perfect. So, we'll just pretend he's JTT. It's fine.
No one's gonna. No one knows what he looks like today. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
I'm also kind of just like, hey, I'm getting through things. Kind of glance up, be like, oh my god, kind of very, very frequently. But then I'm glancing back down and trying to, I don't know, take care of what I can take care of. It feels like eventually, it's like a toddler tantrum. They'll wear themselves out. I definitely saw a TikTok or whatever Instagram reel recently that kind of said the term that I've been thinking about for a long time. There's a podcast called I can't remember what it's called, but it's about brain science, about the studying the brain and all the various things that we have. And it's there's a thing called an extinction burst, where when you try to stop a behavior, that behavior flares up one last time before you're actually able to extinguish it. And so that's why it's so hard to quit so many things that are addictive. And we're having that definitely on a cultural scale right now. It feels like there is an extinction burst of people who feel like they are cornered and they are lashing out and destroying everything. And that doesn't mean we just got to sit there and take it. But sometimes it's like 40 atrocities a day. I'm gonna have to just sort of grin and bear it a little bit because I can't even keep up with it. So
it's you have to take breaks too.
Yep.
It's like you want to be involved where you can, and like I think a lot of what we can affect is very much in our like personal communities, our communities around us. And yeah, I think that's like a good way to look at it. Again, it's like I focus again on how like helpful the response was locally when we had the fires in LA. Exactly. You know, it's like people showed up to help each other. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. I'm gonna do what I can, and people can tell, like, hey, it's getting to me. And when I talked about it the other day, I was like, hey, it's getting to me, and I am lashing out. It was more like I am not happy with my behavior and my reaction, but there were a bunch of people like, hey, checking in on you, making sure you're doing all right, and I appreciate that. So lots of nice people out there. All right, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with those aforementioned Civilization 7 early reviews. This headline from Darren Bontheus at GameSpot does point out that he's finding them to be divisive. Civilization 7 reviews have gone live, and the new entry in the series is proving to be quite divisive with critics. A 4X turn-based strategy game, Civilization 7 offers a familiar foundation for returning players, as you'll pick an influential leader and from human history, expand an empire through various eras, and aim to reach multiple societal milestones along the way. The difference here is that developer Firaxis shakes up the formula with big changes, with these tweaks ranging from impactful to possibly controversial for veterans of the series. It's also worth noting that all of these reviews were done on PC, the platform that's generally considered to be the best for traditional 4X strategy games like this. The Metacritic score right now is 79. It is coming out to everything on the 11th. GameSpot gave it an 80. This is from Jason Rodriguez over there saying, Sid Meier's Civilization 7's one more turn aspect is still as engaging as ever, and I enjoyed huge portions of my playthrough. Several facets, such as those related to diplomacy, espionage, crises, and combat address long-standing concerns. Legacy paths and narrative events, meanwhile, offer rich and rewarding avenues for advancement through the ages. Unfortunately, as someone who's seen the heights that the previous series entries have reached, the vanilla Civilization 7 experience still needs a few tweaks, as it's held back by aforementioned issues that occurred during brief but crucial era transitions. Granted, the changes this series has undergone over the years, whether it's the square tiles or hexes debate, the one unit per tile drama, or city planning with districts, have been improved for the better now, is what he's getting at. VGC gave it a 5 out of 5. Windows Central gave it a 4.5 out of 5. VG 24/7 gave it a 4 out of 5. Games Radar gave it a 4 out of 5. IGN gave it a 70, and then Eurogamer gave it a 40 out of 100, I believe. So let's go with this negative review here from Sin Vega. Civilization 7 is pretty and detailed and sounds fine. I caught that one tune from Colonization. That's an older Sid Meier's game. AI turns are perhaps the fastest I've ever seen, and its UI has enough potential to make some of my complaints feel patchable. Its designs broadly work, and a certain kind of city optimizing fan may even love it. But its lack of character is endemic, and to the extent of its annoying habits and oversights shocking for a series of such pedigree. It's a dull, contradictory game, and instead of showing everyone how it's done, it's felt since hour one like a game that leaves the 4X throne empty. I've been playing this game on my Steam Deck mostly, and
nice.
This is not surprising to me. I'm playing this. I'm like, this is going to be divisive. Now, I think it is solid from the point of view of when these games come out, they usually go through the ringer a little bit where people are unhappy with the first vanilla entry, as one of the reviews mentioned. And I think, like, comparing it to other launch versions of Civ, this one's pretty good. They've got most of the stuff kind of figured out. I think the problem is, I'm one game in, right? I haven't completed my first game, so I'm still learning a lot of the stuff. So I'm in that weird early relationship period where I'm like, is this stuff not substantial, or am I not understanding how to engage with it? Both are a possibility, and I always keep that open. And I think it's always going to be hard to review a game like this in a few days, a game that people are going to play for years and years. But I think I've kind of settled in on like, hey, I think this game is still very playable. There are a lot of good aspects to it. I think the era system where it's like you are picking a leader at the beginning of the game, and then you play through like one era, and it's almost like a period in a sport like hockey, where it's like, okay, we're gonna like finish this period, and then we're gonna kind of wipe everything. Not everything. You're going to keep your cities where they are mostly, but and a lot of them are going to revert to a more a starting state. So you could do that early, a part of civilization that does work really well over and over again. And I think that works, but it also makes it feel like you lose a little bit of the character of your civilization. It also feels like some of that in-game stuff you're working toward, where it's like, I'm a behemoth now, and I could just steamroll everybody. It doesn't feel like you'll necessarily get to that point in the same kind of way. And then I think like stuff like the crises are, there's not much to them. Like every, handful of turns, every 25 turns, every 50 turns, one of my cities starts getting sick. They have an outbreak or something like that. And I got to deal with that.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, to deal with that, I got to start training doctors, and then I got to send the doctors to the other side of the world, because I've started expanding to the other side of the world, and I can't build doctors over there yet. My cities won't do that fast enough. And so far, by the time I've like been ready to deal with the crises, they've ended and we've moved on. And it felt like, okay, this was. I mean, I think it's not the worst thing in the world. It adds some like obstacles, pushback from the game.
Sure.
That I think is pretty good. But it's like I think a lot of the stuff is just insubstantial, where you are going to get these narrative choices similar to the crises, where it's like, okay, pick these two things, and it's some text, and there's a little bonus that you might get from like, plus 20% on your science research for the next 10 turns. And like, that's the thing that's going to matter. And it's so far away from something like a Crusader Kings that is like all about making you feel like you have this lineage going from the beginning to the end of the game, that it's like, this is gesturing towards an idea and not really a substantial idea itself. So
sure, yeah.
I think it's solid fun. I'm enjoying myself, but a lot of the new ideas are not hitting for me.
Right. Yeah. So it's like you are, as you say, it's kind of like each era is like a chapter, or it's like another part in a book series where it's like, there's a lot of related stuff, but it's not necessarily building on the foundations that were established in the previous era for the purpose of this simile, the first book.
Yep. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I'm still interested in it. And Mike Minotti, I saw in chat, wants people to know that he's played it and he likes it. Look, I like turn-based strategy games. I have never played Civ, but this is, that sounds up my alley.
Yeah, I mean, I think the really good thing here for me is this thing works great on the Steam Deck. There are some there's some bugs, UI bugs. I'll be hovering over a bunch of options in a list, and then eventually the highlighted part, like the thing that says, hey, you are hovering over this option, will just kind of like double itself and then stay on one of them. So it's like there's two options I might be clicking on. I'm not sure which one it is, so I have to go up and down until it goes away on the dead sort of highlight here. There is it's kind of hard sometimes especially once the cities get very populated with different buildings, to tell which cell of the hexagon that you're highlighting, and that's a little frustrating. I imagine that could be as much of an issue on PC as it is on Steam Deck. And so, just little things where it's like, okay, I think they're going to be able to improve this over time. But as it is right now, I kind of can't put it down. It is still Civilization. It's still one of those games. And I think the real story here is this is a good start. And in a lot of ways, it's a better start than many recent Civ games have had. And so if you have faith that the studio will continue to support this game, which you should have based on their track record, you're in for a nice, long, well-supported game that is going to be there for you for quite some time. Let's see. Hey, real quick, Kingdom Come Deliverance reviews came in as well. It's doing very well. I'm going to refresh on OpenCritic. It's at a 91 right now on OpenCritic. PC Gamer gave it a 90 out of 100. Says Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a big, bold, unutterably weird thing. I don't know what that means. And it's a new RPG classic. Game Rant gave it a 10 out of 10, says with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Warhorse Studios delivers one of the first great games of 2025. GameSpot gave it a 9 out of 10. It says it is a triumph sequel, improving upon its predecessor with an open world RPG that delights in its complexity and emphasis on player choice. Gotta say, this was one I'm like, man, they're sending out those reviews early. I got my eyes on it, but I'm, I'll play it once it's out, once I hear good things. These are very good things. This is very exciting. A lot of the reviews are in, so I imagine that the 54 reviews are in. So this is probably where it's going to settle in around like 90, 91, maybe 89 after a few more reviews. That's still, though, that's enough to be considered for Game of the Year. A lot of the games last year that were considered for Game of the Year were right in this zone on these aggregate sites. Any interest in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2?
I've been working on some paid projects for it.
Well, there you go. You're sullied. Oh, no. I think they have a lot of confidence in this game, though. So I think,
they're very, they have a lot of confidence in this game. They are very particular about this game.
I bet that's true as well. Yes. Kiko Manbuster says, no one drafted it, I think you're right. I don't think anyone drafted it. I wonder if anyone in our Fantasy Critic League is what we're referencing. Actually ended up picking up in free agency either. I don't know. I'll have to take a look here in a little bit. But yeah, that's a really good score for this game. And I might, that might be the next game I check out. I'm in the mood for an open world RPG that is weird, as these reviews are describing. I don't know what makes it weird, but I'm ready to find out for myself.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving here. PlayStation State of Play set to air later this month, according to a report. This is from George Yang at GameSpot. Sony is reportedly airing its next PlayStation State of Play presentation sometime this month, possibly during the week of Valentine's Day. This comes from industry insider Nate the Hate, shout out to Nate, who previously correctly reported when the Switch 2 was going to be revealed. When asked about when the next State of Play presentation would air, Nate answered, what does your heart tell you? The heart reference might be hinting at Valentine's Day. As for what PlayStation could show off in a new State of Play, he talks that way. Nate talks that way. They drop these kinds of hints. Death Stranding 2 and Ghost of Yotei are slated to launch this year. Insomniac Games recently went through a management shakeup, but has yet to reveal a release date for Marvel's Wolverine. Given PlayStation's disastrous live service initiative, including reportedly canceling a live service God of War and the shutdown of Concord, it's unclear whether we'll see Haven Studios' Fair Games or Bungie's Marathon soon. I think both those games, I reckon are supposed to be out this year. Marathon's definitely supposed to be out this year. Who knows what happens with either of those? But if they were going to cancel those, I suppose they would have done it by now. But I don't know. They're as we talked about with the cancellation of that God of War game, Emma, Sony was going around and kind of taking stock of what it had, and maybe it's in the middle of that process still. I'm not sure. Either way, State of Play later this month just sounds right to me. I have not looked into it since this new round of rumors. I looked into it a few weeks ago, and I couldn't find anything. That is not evidence of absence. There's always the chance that, like, hey, I'm not hearing anything. That doesn't mean anything. So I believe this sounds right. It also just like lines up with there's going to be a lot of games coming out soon, and PlayStation will probably want to like promote some of those in a State of Play thing while also talking about what's coming later this year for them. I think this does happen in the next couple of weeks. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's that time of year. We're getting into February where a lot of very long games are being released, and we just don't know what's coming from PlayStation at this point. So yeah, this definitely sounds right to me. And I think that it was also mentioned that that we've got some television adaptations that are, based on PlayStation properties. Yeah, that's, I don't know. It sounds right.
Yeah.
I don't have much to say outside of that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, totally. Like I've said before, when I did look into this, I heard that a Nintendo Direct would be happening for the Switch 1 in February.
Sure.
So we've already had Microsoft do their thing. These big companies are looking to get out there and do their direct-to-consumer shows in the first couple of months. So the part of me is just like, yeah, of course Sony needs to do this. But we've said that before, and the company definitely seems like they're in a position where if they don't have anything to talk about, they won't talk about anything. And really then when they do a State of Play, Emma, it's a lot of times it can be it could feel obligatory, where they just did this because they told some developers, hey, we will put you in a state of play, so that is us living up to our end of providing a certain amount of money's worth of marketing. So, God, should we even be getting our hopes up for this? I feel like we should, but they're canceling a bunch of games. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting, going through your list here and seeing things like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about the Wolverine game and things like that. So I think that like there are enough things that are in the ether that are due for more information. But as you say, there is a certain level of obligation when you have all these other companies like Xbox, like Switch, doing their, first party like dev streams, and especially with things like Nintendo coming out with the new hardware. Yeah, I mean, I think that yes, we may see this, but also it may not be anything that is too exciting. It'll just be like, oh, here's what we have to show of Ghosts of Yotei or something that, we know about, that we've seen a little bit of. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, right, they'll definitely have like Ghost of Yotei information there. They will probably, talk about, like, if this does happen on Valentine's Day, Monster Hunter Wild could just pop in there because that's coming out later in the month. That sort of thing. Updates on big games that are coming soon.
Right.
Update on a game they've already announced, and then maybe one other surprise. I mean, for a while there, like, we could have one of these shows on the horizon and be like, and this is where we hear about the new Blue Point game. Well, as far as we're aware, that game was canceled, and they made, and as far as we're aware, they didn't have anything else in the works. Maybe they did. Maybe this was a separate project from the, hey, they're working on an entirely new game, and maybe we could read into that meaning, well, that couldn't be the God of War thing, because that's not entirely new. But I don't think that's what they meant. So yeah, it's kind of hard to like imagine what they're going to fill this in with, if it's not like something like Wolverine. And I'm still not sure if that Wolverine game is coming out this year.
Yeah. I truly forgot about it.
Yeah, I just don't want to get my hopes up for it. And so I put it in the back burner, not even on the back burner. It's completely off the stove. And and those leaks come out. It's like, hey, they might have that Venom game first, or maybe they canceled that or moved it down the line or aren't going to do it right away. It's like, okay, so that was going to come before Wolverine. So Wolverine was kind of never planned for this year. I'm not getting my hopes up for something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going here. Community testing plans for EA's new Battlefield game have seemingly leaked. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. The first details of EA's community testing plans for the next Battlefield game have seemingly leaked ahead of an imminent announcement on Sunday. I think this announcement has now happened, by the way, everybody. I'm not sure, but I think it popped off while we were doing this. On Sunday, the publisher told fans to tune in on Monday, February 3rd at 5 p.m. Central European Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time. That's, now, for information about the upcoming Battlefield community testing program. According to a Reddit user, details about the program were added to Battlefield 4 in-game ahead of schedule. Battlefield Labs is a new exclusive testing environment connecting a selected number of players directly with our developers, reads a message when they booted up the game. You'll test while providing us with crucial feedback in order to make the best Battlefield possible. We're kicking things off with players in Europe and North America before looking to expand in the future. While spaces are limited, we encourage everyone to sign up. The next Battlefield game has been in production at multiple internal studios for several years. EA revealed that the first details on the new Battlefield late last year, alongside confirmation it would hold testing in 2025. Battlefield's in a weird place where it's not Call of Duty. It never was Call of Duty, but it was trying to be, and where they could just put out one every year and get a huge audience of people that will just show up. They definitely got to a situation where they were putting out Battlefields and they were backfiring or missing the mark, and people weren't happy. And more recently, it feels like there were more misses than hits. Not that they haven't had hits. I think Battlefield 1 is still very well regarded among that community. Things like that. People go back to that one instead of playing some of these other more recent Battlefields like 2049. I want to say it's probably not the right number. So, okay, I get like, hey, we got to shift this and try to make it work by working with the community. I wonder if that's like, if this is just a marketing thing, or if this is really how they're approaching this game, Emma, where it's like, hey, we got work with them to kind of build up goodwill and find out what's going to work and let them know that we're prioritizing what they want first. Do you think that's real here?
I mean, do I think it's real? I'm not 100% sure. Do I think it ought to be real? Yes. Because as you say, if you are, because again, it's the idea of it was never Call of Duty, but it's kind of trying to be Call of Duty. So I think that, again, it's like the way that you build up goodwill with the community is to collaborate with them. And also, again, you're putting yourself in a position of being able to listen to your players and go, okay, well, what is working about this game? What isn't working about this game? And I think you just build up a lot of loyalty that way of people who feel like they had some sort of contribution to the process and felt like they were listened to by the devs. I think that is a hugely important part of game development these days. I mean, especially we see with so many indie titles, them going out in like early access, and you look back on something like, we talked about many times the disaster that was Concord. It's like, well, I think a way to sort of attempt to future-proof yourself against something like that is to, again, be in there, with the community to offer up these opportunities. I'm looking at an article in Eurogamer right now about this, and basically, you have to sign up and sign an NDA to test out some of the classic modes that they're planning to put in this, like Conquest and Breakthrough. But yeah, I mean, I think that the idea of having these test periods that include the community and have those times for player feedback are, I mean, it's like that's what they should do, and they should take that seriously and not just use it as a marketing ploy. Yeah,
and I think the most optimistic way to read this is, hey, Vince Zampella, this is really his first Battlefield where he's taken over. 2049 was the last leadership group's last chance to really say, hey, we have a good handle on what Battlefield is and what it needs to be for the future, and we're going to deliver that with this game, and people are going to be happy. And it didn't really go that way. And now Vince Zampella fully in charge, and he is maybe bringing in some of that that old Respawn idea and energy, and really, the Respawn way of doing things. We talked about this before on this show, is something that EA did look at, especially after Apex Legends, and like, we want more of that. Now, their way of doing things is we're going to have half of development be come up with just every great idea you can possibly think of. We are going to, don't worry about if it can work in the final game. Just every great idea you have, let's get it up, let's test it for years. And then the second half development is take the best of those and make a game based on it. And, that this is not exactly that, although I get the idea that they're also doing that as well as reaching out to fans. But it's like, okay, well, Battlefield is a legacy franchise that has has a lot of people who have a lot of preconceived notions about what it should be. If you are bringing in every great idea you have, and that is going to change things up for Battlefield, maybe slowly introducing them to the community, let them get used to it, or give their feedback, and if they really hate it, letting them say so, is a good way to, like, okay, we're going to try to feel this out. I have faith in this team just because, hey, they have Vince Zampella in charge, and he's like one of the few senior executives that seems like he is not constantly mismanaging projects. So I'm hopeful on that side of things. This is them fully come out there and be like, hey, it's happening. And as always, that's probably part of it is, hey, we would like you to come work at our studio if you want to make this game. So we're probably years away still from seeing this thing finally delivered. And really, this is now EA doing this with the second game. They did this with Skate as well. Skate 4 is another game that has been in development with a lot of public testing for years. So if this is EA's new way of doing things, okay. I mean, I just don't know if it's really going to be enough to undo what EA has become when it makes these kinds of games,
Yeah. I mean, EA, they've got a reputation working against them at this point, shall we say.
Yes, definitely. That's the right way to put it. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, plenty of more headlines to get into, including EA is currently investigating numerous issues with Sims 1 and 2, just like we kind of predicted when we talked about that last week. We'll talk about that right after this. All right, let's get right back into it. And that Sims 1 and 2 re-release did happen. And I remember, like, last week being like, the fans will take a look at this and they'll let us know what's really going on. Well, they've done exactly that. And according to Chris Scullion at VGC, there's been some issues. EA says it's investigating reports that its recent re-releases of The Sims and Sims 2 have numerous issues. Last Friday, EA re-released The Sims 1 and 2 as a new Legacy Collection versions. And that included all previous DLC, except the IKEA pack released for The Sims 2, apparently. However, over the weekend, players have begun reporting numerous issues with the game, ranging from gameplay bugs and graphical errors to the game simply not loading at all. At the end of the writing, the official Sims forums are full of separate threads from users experiencing crashing, file deletions, disappearing food and furniture, DirectX conflicts, game save issues, and both games not booting in the first place. Now EA has released a statement acknowledging the problems, telling players it's looking into solutions. So, I mean, this always happens. So at a certain point, I'm like, this just must be kind of how software works sometimes, where you kind of try to piece it together and you're like, we got to just put it out so that people can try it on all their various systems, and then we'll fix it at that point. But also, like Sims 1 and 2, this re-release, people are telling me, I'm not super tapped into the Sims scenes, but people are telling me, hey, this is for those people who find Sims 4 too complicated and are nostalgic for Sims 1 and 2, and they just want to go install those and play the games that they knew. And giving them this sort of rough experience out of the gate it's got to take the wind out of a lot of those people's sails. We're like, okay, PC gaming is broken, and I don't want anything to do with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, as we say, EA reputation working against them. Sounds like The Sims, just releasing and having all kinds of issues. And again, it's like, I feel like we've had this conversation like a week ago where we were talking about like the appeal of a like console versus a PC. And to me, this sounds like, your sort of classic PC gaming issues that come up, which is why, you do have people that really gravitate towards consoles. And again, like consoles are becoming more finicky as they become more like PCs. Sure. However, they still are very much a plug and play out the gate kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, look, I get that this is for people who are, I don't know, overwhelmed by the amount of options and things to do in the more recent Sims titles, but they're not going to show up for a game that's not loading, you know?
Yeah, and they're not, I mean, at a certain point, it's like, I wanted to sit down and enjoy this, and if it's going to be broken, that they want out. I think, in chat, Et points out that EA needs a win before earnings tomorrow, and really, I think that's what a lot of these things happening recently with EA are about. Last time we were talking about EA, it was FIFA or EA Football Club now.
Football Club or whatever, yeah.
Dragon Age, the Veilguard, both missing their marks. That was definitely much more on Football Club than the Veilguard, but both missed their marks.
Sure.
And the EA stock took a pretty big hit, and they announced that in the lead up to this earnings call, because they were trying to like get ahead of it and be like, hey, expect some bad news. So they're trying to like build up some momentum now, but hey, there's a new Battlefield coming. This is us officially announcing it, and don't forget about The Sims. We have that prints money, and look, we're getting a lot of these older fans back in the mix, and that you get the sense that that's why something like The Sims 1 and 2 maybe comes out hot, comes out a bit but unfinished, and it's like okay, you need these wins. But what happens when we actually just put this one in the lost column like everything else because you messed it up again because you rushed it out? This is mismanagement once again, and it feels like a symptomatic of EA as a whole, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I think Sims is going to be just fine in the long run for sure. That next Sims game that they're working on, whatever that turns out to be, that actually is more of a question mark because they're saying it's not Sims 5. They want to keep Sims 4 going forever. Sims 4 will definitely be all right, I think. But whatever that next Sims thing could blow up in their face if it's too different or doesn't deliver the experience that people are looking for. Especially now that there are a lot of competitors in this scene coming out of like Asia that are very good and have a very different style, very realistic style that some people are like, no, this is actually what I want now. But in the meantime, Sims 4 I think will continue to do just fine. But it's not the, hey, we are introducing this franchise to an entirely new audience or bringing back a massive older audience, which is kind of what EA needs for growth once again. And
yes,
this franchise might not be the answer that they're looking for, although they're treating it that way.
Well, because again, you bring up the idea that this is not bringing new people to The Sims. This is bringing the original Sims players back to replay the games that they preferred to Sims 4. You are not expanding your audience this way. You're better off trying something new in Sims 4 to try to expand your audience. So, I think this to me just feels like a miss in general for EA. Not to say that there isn't value in re-releasing these games, and particularly something like The Sims, which never had a digital release. You literally would still need your disc to play it on PC, and what PC has a disc drive anymore? So again, like from a video game history conservation standpoint, I think that this is important, but I don't think that EA is in a position wherein that's what they should be focusing on.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I imagine that this game is going to get fixed up over time, that they are going to patch it up, and it will in a few months be like, oh, okay, don't worry, this is all good now. But people will remember this moment more than that, for the most part. All right, let's keep moving here. There's a rumor that Perfect Dark could be coming to PlayStation 5 and Switch 2. This is from Ryan Perino at GameRanks. Since it was announced in 2020, Microsoft has been eerily quiet about the progress of the project. Rumors swirled that the game was in a very rough state right until Microsoft showcased a gameplay trailer for it last year, the Xbox Developer Direct. That was my fault. Some people definitely still felt that way at the time, but in a lot of ways, it was coming together. As the first original game in the franchise after 2005's Perfect Dark Zero, expectations were high, but a lot of fans also expected Microsoft to falter in development. That trailer was such a good showing that it did quiet down a lot of that FUD. Subsequently, we reported last October that Perfect Dark surprisingly picked up a new creative director in Brian Horton. Brian was previously creative director for Marvel's Wolverine until he quit Insomniac. While Insomniac did have people ready to take over that position, with Insomniac founder Ted Price now leaving the studio, that FUD certainly seems to have switched places between the two projects. We'll see. As shared on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit by user Jason versus Freddy versus nothing, the initiative has a new job listing on their website looking for someone who can optimize and ensure the scalability of the rendering features to support multiple platforms and quality settings. Subsequently, Ecstasis, who is a relatively well-known leaker who has a pretty good track record, claims that this is evidence that Microsoft plans to publish Perfect Dark on the PlayStation 5 and the Switch 2. And at this point, with Forza Horizon getting announced for the PlayStation 5 last week, Emma, this sounds like, yeah, of course Perfect Dark is coming to PlayStation 5. They've spent a long time making that game. They want to make money, right?
Yeah, exactly. They want this to be as accessible to people as humanly possible. Like anybody that owns a console, a PC, and anything that can buy it, they want them to.
Yep. I think at this point, everyone accepts that that's kind of what Xbox is. Even the fans. I mean, they're still they have their mourning kind of constantly still, but I think even they are really starting to get it.
No, totally. And it's like I even saw, some discussion in the chat when we were talking about the upcoming PlayStation showcase and how one of the things that, people predict could potentially be included is that, Starfield is coming to PlayStation, which is, again, just kind of going back to that point that Xbox doesn't have exclusives. They just don't. They don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And it's I think they're at a point where, like, hey, we made these games and we just want to make money. We've had this conversation.
We just want people to play them.
We've had this, a million times. And I think even if we didn't have like these rumblings or whatever, even like, Jesse in chat points out, this is an old job listing. Even without this stuff, if you ask me, do I think Perfect Dark is coming to PlayStation? I would say yes. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be day one. I don't think it's going to be day one, but I think it'll come to PlayStation. And at a certain point, why not Switch 2 if you could support it? Because Perfect Dark has a Nintendo lineage that they would want to capitalize on.
It does, absolutely. I mean, but that being said, as somebody who did not have an N64, I would have bought Perfect Dark for the PlayStation, or I would have made my parents buy it for me because I was a child and didn't have disposable income at that point.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, look, the era of having anything be exclusive forever is just shooting yourself in the foot.
Yep.
At this point.
Yeah. And we've said it a bunch of times on here as well that it seems like PlayStation has mostly won what we thought of as the console war.
Sure,
and even they are
sure.
like, now what? And now what is we got to get
Yep.
everything on PC.
Yep.
That's now what. And so
Yep.
they're looking for more ways out. And so of course Xbox is here, and there's just no going back. That is a very old battle. And Perfect Dark being a big expensive game that they partnered with outside major third parties and Crystal Dynamics to work on. This is probably a project that is going to end up costing them a lot of money. And I think it's also going to be a very good game based on like what we see of it, and the promises of like what it's trying to do, where it's like this first person, maybe Hitman like adventure with a bunch of different gears and gizmos that can affect the world. That sounds awesome. You want that everywhere. Make as much money back on that as possible.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Nintendo Switch Online price hikes. This is a possibility. Nintendo Switch Online is reportedly becoming more expensive in Latin America. While geographically limited, the price hikes itself is understood to be significant, with exact increases varying across Nintendo Switch Online membership tiers. Nintendo subscription service will celebrate its 7th anniversary in September. Since its 2018 release, Nintendo Switch Online has been priced at approximately $20 per year, depending on your exact region. A more expensive tier of the service called NSO Plus Expansion Pack was launched in October 2021, priced around $50 per year. Although Nintendo has raised NSO prices over the years, such adjustments were infrequent and never global. For example, as of early this year, U.S. consumers can still purchase either membership tier at the original price. There is a chart here of like, okay, this is happening in Brazil, and I think it's happening in Mexico. Yeah, here's the list. Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru are all seeing increases, and they're around 10% to 25%, depending on exactly how you look at it. So NSO standard is going up about 20% in Brazil. If you get the family pack, it's going up 25%. If you get the expansion pack, not as a family pack, it's going up 14%. And if you get Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack for an entire family, that's 8 people, it's going up 11% to about $80 per year is like kind of the general range. So it's like it was, let's see, like $15 for the base one. Now it's like $20.40 in Brazil. So that's kind of the range they're in now, 20 to about 80, where previously it was about 15 to about probably about $60. So yeah, this is not too surprising. They haven't raised the price globally yet.
No, yeah.
And we're going into the Switch 2. It's now, right? They're gonna start this process now, because Nintendo Switch Online is probably going to be more expensive as we get to the Switch 2.
Of course it is. Yeah. Well, and also like every subscription service, I feel like, every other day I'm getting an email from a Netflix or a Hulu or a whatever saying, oh, your prices are going up. I mean, yeah, this is the world we live in.
Yep. The Netflix one more recently was the one that finally was like, all right, I'm going to do that True Bill thing or whatever it's called now, and I'm going to see my subscriptions. And there were actually quite a few on there. I'm like, what even is this? I subscribed to the Meta Oculus Rift store thing. I don't remember doing that. Did I do like a free thing and I didn't even realize it, and then it just clicked over? It's like, oh yeah, probably. That's exactly
what they want you to do.
So I found a bunch, and then I canceled YouTube TV, so no cable again. Which it was overdue. That's too expensive as well. But everything is going to keep going up in price. I think Nintendo will be like maybe a little bit more aggressive with that this generation, but they've also treated NSO as it's a bit extra, and you can use this to play our games online, which is the real reason we get any of these things. And so we're going to sell a base number no matter what. And I don't know if the effort they put into it beyond that is going to increase commensurately with the amount of money that people are going to have to pay with the increases. So yeah, I think they'll be a little bit more aggressive, but they're not going to be like Netflix or Xbox Game Pass, where it's like, an increase every year and a half. No,
yeah. As you say, this is very much I think Nintendo only discovered the existence of the internet maybe in 2020.
Yeah.
So
some of them still don't know about it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It is never going to be Nintendo's main thing. Nintendo is always going to rest on the laurels of their IP. that will always be exclusive to Nintendo. And they literally have the internet because everything they have internet connectivity because they like all game systems have internet connectivity and online gameplay options.
Yep.
And so that's like Nintendo gonna Nintendo. They're gonna raise the prices when they remember.
Yep. It's I think that if they do improve anything, it is maybe a new like TurboGrafx 16 gets added to the base version, and I don't even know what they would add to the expansion pack for the Nintendo Switch Online games. And really, there's not a ton of options there. I mean, so they could bring Sega back in and do something with like Genesis, or they have Genesis, but like Sega Saturn and maybe Dreamcast, but that feels unlikely. So it's like, what else can they do? I mean, a new thing like Tetris 99, they'll probably have that, sure. But very few have hit like Tetris 99. So again, they're just not going to have a lot of options available to them to make this service feel any better than it has. And yet they know people will bear a slight price increase to be able to continue to play Mario Kart online if that's what they really want to do.
Yep.
Okay, let's get through these last handful of stories. Roll7's games Ollie Ollie World and Rollerdrome have been delisted from Steam and Xbox. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. The two final games released by shuttered developer Roll7 have been delisted from Steam and the Xbox Store. As spotted by PC Games N, Ollie Ollie World and Rollerdrome are no longer available to buy on Steam. VGC can also confirm neither game can be purchased on the Xbox Store, though both are still present on the PlayStation Store, and Ollie Ollie World is still on the Switch eShop. It's not yet clear whether the game's delistings are a temporary issue or the result of Take-Two's decision in November to sell the indie label Private Division, which published both titles. Following months of speculation, Take-Two announced in November that it had sold Private Division, including most of its existing and unreleased titles, but it didn't disclose who had acquired the label or for how much. Earlier this month, Bloomberg reported that the buyer was Haveli Investments, a private equity firm based in Austin, Texas. The report claimed that Haveli intends to launch a new company that will publish Private Division's remaining games, started by former Annapurna employees, but didn't reveal what was to happen with the games recently published by Private Division, such as Ollie Ollie World and Rollerdrome. So these games seem like they're in a purgatory, and we don't know if there is something is happening in the background that will get these games back up there and make sure the people that have the rights to these games continue to get money from them. We don't know, and it's just like, oh man, this is more fallout from the weird world of major companies getting in the world of indie game publishing, and then they get bored and distracted, and these games are the victims of that, right?
Right, and also and it contributes to the larger conversation about physical media, which we talked about, I think, last week, and the fact that I don't want to own physical copies of things because I'm just playing it on a computer screen anyway. It's very different with books, as you say. With a book, it's like that is the experience, even though I have a Kindle as well. But here is your argument for the importance of physical media is because they can't just delist that and take that away. And there is a physical Switch version of Ollie Ollie World. So I think if you have these games already and you're digitally, I think you can continue to download them as they were for sure. But you're right. Now I think a lot of people just count on, well, I'll get around to those eventually, so I'm not going to buy it now. I'll buy it then. And that safety net is not as safe as you might think. And that's where it's like, if you just have the physical copy and you buy that, you don't have to worry about any of this. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, also like the used games market.
Of course. Yes, there are benefits. And we don't want physical games to go away. They kind of offer this pressure on publishers to keep prices down a little bit more than digital games do.
Yeah.
So, in the meantime, though, I hope that this team of people that worked at Annapurna, which they say they seem to be very good at their job, and that when that thing blew up for a bunch of reasons, they all left together, and now they're all going to work together again, kind of taking over what happened with Private Division. So hopefully this stuff gets sorted. It is just weird that these games are not down on PlayStation and one of them's not down on Switch. So I wonder what even prompted this in the first place.
It's so strange.
Could just be like every once in a while on the back. I don't know. I'm guessing every once in a while on the back end you have to go in and someone has to like sign something, like click something, be like, hey, yes, keep sending the money here.
Continue your licensing agreement or whatever. Yeah.
Maybe that just expired, something along those lines. So who knows?
I don't know.
Yep, very, very weird thing. Finally, speedrunner takes Donkey Kong Run to new heights by beating the kill screen. This is from Jim Norman at Nintendo Life. 44 years after its release, you'd think that the speedrunning community would have pushed the Donkey Kong arcade game to its limits. It's not fair. That's not the speedrunning community. This is the arcade competitive gaming scene. They're two different things. But as it turns out, there are a handful of extra levels hidden behind the game's long-assumed unbeatable kill screen. All you got to do is beat it. That's the challenge that was recently undertaken by Super Mario Bros. Speedrunner Cosmic. In a 29-minute YouTube video, the Mario Pro explains that Donkey Kong's US arcade release, the one used for competitive play, maxes out at the first barrel stage of level 22. This comes as a product of a glitch in the game's bonus timer algorithm, where the game will prematurely end after just 400 bonus points have passed. Nowhere near long enough to make it all the way to Pauline at the top of the tower. Now, this was understandably assumed to be the game's natural end, but inspired by a Discord message from another DK speedrunner, Cosmic worked out that you could hypothetically use another glitch to overcome the premature kill screen, fighting fire with fire, and all that. The glitch in question is one that allows Mario to eternally climb the screen thanks to some coordinate manipulation on a broken ladder. If you could ride this exploit all the way to the top, he'd theoretically make it before the dodgy bonus timer expired. Booting up the game in an emulator and using Frame Advance to slow things down for frame-perfect inputs, Cosmic got to work climbing DK's tower in this weird, floaty manner, and it works. The speedrunner was able to make it past level 22's first barrel stage and progress through a further 5 stages to get to 22-6 rivet stage. So yeah, this is fun.
It's fun.
It's always cool to see, like, oh man, they're still discovering new tech in these very old games. We'll see if someone is actually able to do this in a live setting. That might be a little bit more challenging, especially if it has to be frame perfect. But what we've seen is where something is possible, usually someone's able to do it. I mean, that's how it's worked on Super Mario Brothers, where that thing has been refined down to basically humans are playing like tool-assisted speedrun computers. So if it's possible, they'll find a way to do it. But again, I would like to see that live and see someone set a whole new high score. It's going to be fun.
Somebody's going to be able to. I truly believe it. I mean, again, it's like, yes, you have to be frame perfect, but there are people that can pull that off. And I love speedrunning. I love people figuring out just ways to break games.
Yeah, and it does, like, this is I'm saying, the arcade competitive scene, but like these are speedrunners figuring these things out as that's normally how it goes, where the speedrunners are just so obsessed and so meticulous and have such a strong community, like, and that's, someone always is like, hey, I have an idea, and then some speedrunners like that gives me an idea, let's try to do this, and God, that's the best part about it for sure.
It's awesome.
Yes, the common denominator is that they're sickos. That's right, Frenetic Finesse. All right. I think that's going to do it for the headlines. We got a poll question. Let's bring that up from last week. Would you still be surprised if Halo came to PlayStation? 79% said no, and 21% said yes, they'd still be surprised. Let me refresh that and make sure that is the latest on there. Yes, okay, there we go. That is indeed. Hey, 1 in 5 people still being surprised. I guess it's not crazy, but I think people should stop being surprised by this. I think seeing 80% basically of people being like, no longer would that surprise me. That's the sign that Microsoft's messaging is finally sinking in, right?
Yes.
Yeah. At this point, I think we probably get like Halo, the Master Chief Collection on Switch 2 and PlayStation 5 this year. Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah. Again, like I've said it before, weirdly enough, Xbox, not in the business of selling Xboxes.
No. Yeah. I mean, they'll keep making them and they'll sell you one, but no, they're selling much bigger things than that. And that's Call of Duty. All right. That does it for that poll question. I have another one to go up here very soon. In the meantime, though, Emma, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, all that good stuff?
I deleted Instagram from my phone, so really just blue sky. I've got that. I recommend to anybody that I now, when I go to try to open Instagram, it's my Pinterest, and my Pinterest is very lovely. It's nicely curated. It's all home decor and fan art of video game characters that I like, sometimes smooching. It's great. Pinterest is wonderful. And I recommend that for your mental health. There's less news on Pinterest. And then I don't know. I'm around. I'm doing stuff. I'm traveling a lot for work in the next couple of weeks. So I'll be in New Orleans this week. I'll be in San Francisco the week after that. What a time!
Yep, on the move. Emma Fyffe always moving. Everybody, you'll never be able to catch her. She's always one step ahead. All right, new poll question: Elden Ring Night Rain is apparently a roguelike. Does that make you more or less excited? Your options are more or less. So we'll get the results of that and talk about it here on Game Mess Mornings on Giant Bomb on Wednesday. Speaking of Giant Bomb, the Bombcast will be back on tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Talking to the team about Civilization 7 and a few other things that have been happening. Maybe I'll get a chance to play some Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and talk about that before we go live. And then, this week we should have more Blight Club, more Voicemail Dump Truck, more UPF, maybe a BCR, a few other things, and then we'll try to do some other fun streams for you all as well in between all of that. In the meantime, though, Emma, I think that's a show. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
Yep, and we'll make it again happen again next Monday. Thank you all for watching and listening. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.